All right, boys, this is it, the new Rewaco Explorer. We did a Rewaco review last year, and now we're revisiting the new model. All right, and so I'll tell you pros and cons, everything you need to know about this. If you're looking at one of these, maybe you're looking at a Harley trike, or even a Polaris or a Can-Am, or something like that, I'll be able to give you the pros and cons of the Rewaco here. This is the new Explorer model from Rewaco. 1 year ago, we did the original video on the Rewaco. This year, we're going to be taking a look at the differences that they've done here, what they've changed. Are they better? Does it make it worse? Pros and cons, all of that stuff. And we're, of course, going to take it out on the road. Now, big thanks to American Biker for letting me come out and give you my honest opinion on this. If you're looking at a Rewaco or Indians or used Harleys, come talk to Rob at American Biker. Again, big thanks for their support. Now, one thing to note, they've simplified the starting process. You still have a key fob and all that, but what we could do, turn this key, hit our fuel pump, turn the power on, hit the brake, start it up. Some of the things that we'll talk about in this menu before we get started on the road, you have physical buttons over here, so we can look at the RPMs. We got our water temperature over here. We got a fuel level gauge, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a very simple instrumentation. Problem is, polarized glasses, you cannot see the screen, so it kind of is what it is there. We have cruise control up here, turn signals, right? High beam. We also can flash our high beams with this little button in the back, horn. Boop. It actually sounds like a car. And then we also have driving lights over here. We can turn on and off. Starting with some of the specs, we got a 10-gallon tank. It's 1,400 pounds, and this thing is like the sports car of trikes. So it's got a turbocharged 1.5 engine pushing 140 horsepower. This thing is a freaking tank. Speakers, all of that kind of stuff. But if you have a disability, they can actually cater this to you as well, which is kind of cool. This one, of course, does have the storage on the sides there. Now, these things will fit quite a bit, but it's not going to be able to fit any size helmet. I always use my Atlas 3.0 to see if it will fit. It's got a GoPro attachment as well, but even without the GoPro attachment, it would not fit in here. So maybe if you have some smaller helmets, half helmets, something like that, then those would obviously fit. And then the Explorer model doesn't have a trunk, but it does have this luggage rack right here, so you can pack some more stuff up with you. Now, as you can see, you have about 22 lights on the front of this thing, so it's got plenty of light. Unfortunately, they decided to go with halogens for all of your big lights. So your low beam, your high beam, all of that. And then you have little LED strips underneath. You have your blindside mirrors on the side over here. And the front end, it has a Springer like type front end to it, right? Single shock absorber up there. And then of course you have your ABS and your single disc up front. So not only do you have those mirrors down here, you of course got your mirrors up here. And overall, one thing I was impressed with last year, and hopefully I'll be impressed with this year, is the way this steers. If you've ever ridden a Harley trike specifically, they can be really hard to steer. So this one right here was actually really smooth. We'll find that out on the road. It basically has like a motorcycle tire in the front, a big motorcycle tire, and street tires in the rear. So I'm really interested on how this thing handles and turns. So your passenger actually might be doing better on this thing than you, the driver. They actually have a little separate headrest and armrest right there. And what you'll notice about all these Rewacos, they all look different. And so you have more defined lines and edges on this new body style compared to the old one. It still has that like swoop down look in the front of the tank, almost looks like an old school chopper or something. You got these big fenders covering the 18-inch wheels on this thing, alloy wheels at that. And like I said, each one looks different from the front end to the back. So this one is a little more stripped down. You have your LEDs on either side. And then what I like about this one especially is the exhaust is in this little cutout portion right here. It makes it look, again, kind of like a sports car. Now this looks like they fixed this from last year. This is much easier to adjust these pedals. So you basically pull this out and you have little notches that it can fit into. So no matter what position you want that thing to be, even if you just want it up and out of the way, you can move it very easily. Same thing with the front, right? So if you want to move it right there. Now this one is actually manual, so it's not spring loaded like the front. You just push that right back in there depending upon the position that you want it to be in. So if you haven't left yet, and I hope that you haven't, now we're going to take this thing on the road and see how it drives, because it looks really wild and I expect to get a lot of looks, but I can't wait to see how this thing actually handles compared to last year's model. Let's get our helmet on. I'm telling you, it's basically like a car, for real. Now, of course, it's 1,400 pounds and our feet aren't touching, so back this bad boy up. Now, one thing I do remember about this is it was much easier to steer than a trike, at least the Harley trike. And the throttle is touchy. Oh yeah, you hear that turbo kicking up? What we may do down the road is put it in sport mode, right? When we come to a stop, we can turn it over to sport, and then we can use these like paddle shifters. This one's a little bit more stripped down than the version we did last year, which was the touring model, the GT touring model, which they still make, by the way. And if you guys like this video, I might take the 2023, which is the pure line is what they call this, and I might take the GT model with the fairing and all that. It's actually got speakers. It's got a whole lot of stuff in that one, actually. I bet you I get a lot of looks on this thing, dude. Any Rewaco owners out there, I'd love to hear, like, what's your experience been with this machine? Has it been reliable? You know, any of that stuff, because obviously I can't really speak to that too much, but I can speak to the power, that's for sure. It's so funny, you can hear that turbo spooling up. And that's one thing I noticed about this, man. It's like super easy to ride. And I have a little bit of experience with trikes, not just the Rewaco, but the Harley trike as well. And so one thing I noticed about this thing is how easy it is to drive and to turn specifically. Now the new trikes might be different, but as far as the Harley lineup, but I felt like the one I reviewed, it was like a 2017. It was really hard to turn that thing, which seems counterintuitive, because typically if somebody's going to be getting a trike, they need something easier to turn, obviously, and the fact you don't have to, you know, keep your balance on something like that. This one, very easy to turn. You just sit back on this thing and cruise, dude. It's got these bucket style seats, big old platforms, I guess you'd call them. One thing I don't like about these is they have the open grates. So I was hoping when they swapped models and upgraded them, they would take the open grates off. You know, that is an add-on that you could do, but it just seems like people will be breaking their freaking neck on these things if you step on it wrong. Driving it is about as simple as it gets for something like this. You got the little mirrors down here, so you can, I don't even know if they're not adjustable or anything. I thought there was some like throttle lag, but there's really not. I remember last year's model was kind of laggy or something, but I don't know, I could be mistaken. It's been a while. Make sure our camera is gonna stay where we want it. Plenty of driving lights up here. For some reason they put halogens for all of this lighting mixed with LEDs, man. It doesn't look good, nor does it make sense to me. I hate that decision. Yeah, I'm getting looks from oh man, it's so funny, dude. I wonder if I can slow any of this down where y'all could see the people like staring. That's hilarious. All right, let's put it in sport mode. Yeah, I never understood why some of the trikes, or the Harley trike specifically, was so hard to steer, man. You know, you would think that you would want this to be as easy as possible, and this one specifically is easy to turn, which also fascinates me, you have two big car tires in the rear and a motorcycle tire in the front. Just goes to show you, you know, the Germans know how to engineer stuff, that's for sure. Of course, we got our cruise control and stuff right here. And dude, you could just sit on this thing and chill. This is kind of nice. A little break from the norm here. I think it would be cool if they actually did put a shifter on it. You know, for somebody that wants the whole experience. Kick it down. Gear I'm in. I'm in second gear. Boom. Back to first. It's so easy to drive. We're going to turn it back to well, nah, let's leave it on this. We about to hit the interstate, boys. I thought it was beeping at me to shift, but it actually beeps at you when your turn signal's on. That's kind of cool. We live a life in the, oh, I was about to say we live life in the fast lane around here, then I saw that cop. Nope. Just kidding. This is smooth, man. Holy crap. I was not expecting that. Let's see what 7th gear is like. You know, there's a little bit of side-to-side movement, but because you're not having to constantly correct like you would on a traditional motorcycle, I don't imagine that this would fatigue you quite as much. I wouldn't think. I could be wrong, but you know, I'm definitely getting, you know, obviously a lot of wind in my chest. My head's buffeting around a little bit, but it's not nearly as much as what it would be. This thing is so smooth, man. I'm impressed. I really am impressed with this, dude. I remember questioning myself last year, like, why am I even doing this? You know, and then I get on the trike and I'm like, wow, this is it's pretty impressive. Now granted, they're not free, they're not giving them away either, okay? So they cost a pretty coin, but hey, American Biker, getting big thanks to those guys for their continued support. This thing's pretty awesome, dude. Put your little mount right here for your phone. You got a USB port right there. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't support like CarPlay or, you know, anything like that. It's not a touchscreen or anything, so it's kind of limited in the instrumentation. Put our parking brake on. Let's talk about some of the pros and cons of this thing. You know, let's start with the pros. This thing is smooth, man. Smooth steering. The suspension feels really good. It absorbs the road really well, you know, and I was a little worried that we were going to get some vibrations and stuff because at idle it vibrates quite a bit. On the road, it's smooth from 30 to 75, I think is the max we got up to speed on this thing, and it's quick. It is responsive and quick. I really like that about this thing, man. It's fun to drive, you know, and I think that's the biggest thing for me. You got a bunch of lights up here. It's easy to maneuver and turn, and there's a lot of add-ons. All right. One thing that Rewaco will do too. So if you're doing, let's say, a you know, cross-country trip or something, you know, and you break down in the middle of, you know, nowhere. So from what I'm told, you find a shop that will work on it, right? Let's say an Indian dealer, but they don't sell Rewacos or something. Well, Rewaco will have the parts overnighted to you as long as it's within, you know, the warranty, which is a 2-year warranty on it. Okay, so there may not be dealer support everywhere, but they will get the parts needed to you if something were to happen. That's why I was asking the community, people that have bought these things, how reliable have they been? I like that each one is a little bit different too. You don't have the same model, just with additional features, right? So the back end of this one looks very different from the GT. I like that, man. The front end looks very different. The features are obviously different. I like the exhaust. It's just got a clean look to it. And it's a showstopper, man. Look at that suspension in there. I mean, it's really, it seems to me to be very high quality. Nice alloy wheels, adjustable brake lever, adjustable pegs there for your passenger. Your passenger's got one nice setup as well. So all in all, I think it's just a lot of fun to drive. This year's model, much easier to start up, and the body lines, you get more definition, especially in through the tank and stuff. I'm kind of on the fence about it. You know, I like how it does this right here. I don't know about the additional lines in here. It's okay. But from here back, I really like that. I think it looks good. The fender, again, I'm kind of on the fence about that. Cons, these halogens got to go, man. You know, you got the LED little light bars, you got LEDs in the rear, but then you got halogens mixed in throughout. I'm not a fan. I think it would be good if they were to fill these. I just think it's more of a liability to have this open. You get your foot stuck like that and boom, you're coming face first off of it. You know, hopefully you still have your helmet on if that were to happen. I like the idea of it, but I just wish they would just fill them. Also, I kind of wish these were bigger, man. I wish you could fit any full-size helmet in these. I think that would be ideal, but of course, you know, if you have the trunk, the touring model, if you know, you can fit with, you know, pretty much anything you want to in those. So, you know, there's a little bit of a trade-off. Also, I didn't talk about the startup. The startup is much better this year. Some of the little things I don't like, their emblem on the side, I do not like this at all. I mean, I feel like I could buy this from AutoZone. Little red buttons, the throttle grip, I don't know. It just, the controls and stuff seem very cheap to me. Also, this needs to be bigger and a touch screen. You know, navigation, all those kinds of things that you would expect in a 2023. It's a little bit lacking here, at least on this model. But all in all, man, again, I can't speak to the reliability of these things, but this is a quick, enjoyable machine. If you need a trike, though, this thing is a lot of fun and super smooth. I'd love to hear from y'all, man. What do you think about the Rewaco, the new Explorer model? Do you like the new lines? Do you like some of the new features? Let me know down below. Big thanks to you guys. See you in the next one. And make sure you check out my original video on the Rewaco right up in here or right here. Big thanks. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.